Welcome back to IGN Live from Gamescom. Next, we're going to take a look at Battle Chasers Nightwar. And lucky for us, we have the creator of the comics that the game is based on. Joe, thanks for joining us here.
Thank you.
Hey, Joe.
Battle Chasers Nightwar. You created the Battle Chasers comic series in the late 90s, is that right?
Yes, like 2000. I think it was like 1999.
Yeah, right on the cusp there.
Right on the cusp.
Yeah,
right at the end.
It was a long time ago.
But now you're revisiting that world and that character, those characters with this game, Nightwar, which is the game itself is sort of is it correct? It's like a JRPG style game.
It is. It's kind of a dungeon crawler. So but when you get into combat, it's turn-based, like some of the JRPG greats. And the comic itself was inspired by a lot of RPGs I was playing at the time. So it's kind of like
that's awesome.
So
full
wait,
circle.
RPGs in 1999 would have been like Chrono Cross.
Yeah, it was like
there?
Chrono Cross, Suikoden, like Ark the Lad.
Yeah.
Lunar, Silver Star Story.
for sure.
So
obviously
you're
Final
playing
Fantasy.
these RPGs, you're making the comic, and then like years later, like I want to make an RPG based on the comic.
Yeah, it was actually, it was going to be just an RPG. The Battle Chasers thing happened after as we were developing it. I wanted to do something new because it felt like, man, this was so long ago. But people would just, who knew that we were working on, were like, you guys are doing Battle Chasers, right? And it's obviously what you should do. And I was like, dang, maybe we should. And we tested the waters with a Kickstarter, and it did really well. So the support was there. And, you know, once I saw the characters moving around and the combat system was further along, I never regretted it. I thought I was like, all right.
So first, tell us about the premise behind Battle Chasers.
So Battle Chasers, the core of the story is about a young girl. Her father's a legendary hero. He goes missing, and he leaves these gauntlets behind, which she finds, and it gives her superhuman strength. So she's basically like the Hulk trapped in a kid's body. And all of her father's loyal friends, Garrison's a swordsman that worked with him or served under him. There's like a wizard. She first meets Calibretto. He's a robot. So they have Red Monaco, who's like a pirate, rogue. And all the characters from the comics are playable in the game, and then we introduce one new character that ties into the story. It's a side adventure. You don't have to know anything about the comics at all. We reintroduce everything, and you know, if you have read them, it's cool because you can see the heroes in there, but if you haven't, you'll still enjoy the game just fine. So you shouldn't worry about, I didn't read that thing 20 years ago.
So we're seeing a battle now. The perspective just switched. Looks really awesome.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, so you know, it's turn-based, so you have the initiative order. Each character has 3 of these battle bursts. Nolan's casting one right now. They're a little more cinematic. The cool thing about that burst meter on the far left, actually, it has 3 levels, and you can wait for all 3 to charge up and do one big level 3 burst. Or you might only use 1 level or 2 levels of it and leave some for another character. It's shared across all the heroes. And so each hero has 3. And there's a lot of strategy. They carry over from battle to battle, so you can just save it in case there's a boss coming up or something like that. There's Gully punching the ground.
And so we have some of these characters are sort of like steampunk mech inspired.
Yeah, that's kind of what was fun about Battle Chasers. At the time, I had just come off Uncanny X-Men at Marvel, and I was doing superhero comics for so long, but secretly I was like, you know, a big D&D nerd and like playing all these RPGs, and there weren't any fantasy comics in the US other than like Conan or something like that. And so I remember I pitched the idea to a publisher, and they were like, why would you leave X-Men to do a fantasy book? Is it like Conan or something? And I'm like, no, it's like Final Fantasy. It's got like a robot and airships and like tanks and sword and sorcery. So it sounded bizarre even when I was saying it out loud, but I kind of knew where I was going to take it. You know, big over the top spells and so all that's in there.
So if the game is its own story, you don't need to have read the comics to enjoy the game. What's the premise behind the game?
So in the game, basically mana is the source of all magic in their world, and it's been slowly fading. And so they go to this island because it's rumored that there's this mana source there that hasn't been discovered yet. And in the opening cutscene, they immediately get shot down by airship pirates. And at first, they're trying to get off the island, but they meet a character named Aluman. He's the new hero we introduced. He's a devil hunter. And it's kind of a nod to like Castlevania and like all the other games that we love. And he basically is trying to prevent the return of this vampire lord who's building this army on this secluded island. That's where the Nightwar comes in, and so you guys decide to stay. And you know, Gully wants to live up to her dad and like take over his role, so they decide to stay and defeat this guy. There's a couple twists along the way, but that's the basic gist.
So the 5 characters from the comics make up your party?
Yeah, there's
right?
six
Okay,
playable heroes. Yeah. And at any one time, you can only have 3 in your party. So when you're in town, you want to gear up your heroes. You want to choose which 3 you're going to take into the dungeon. And some heroes have like play better with others. You know, there's some synergy there. Oh yeah, this guy. And so depending on what you want to do, like if you're doing a quick dungeon run, maybe you've already beat it, and you just want to get loot, like loot all the chests and get crafting resources, you might choose Gully because she can stun creatures and skip combat, or Monica, who has stealth and she can sneak past, and then you can just get all the loot and get out. But if you want to like beat a certain boss, and you might need more healers, you might need more DPS, whatever it is, so so you would choose different.
Now, is the way you sort of navigate through this world, is it like sort of straightforward? Is it narrative? Like, do you have the option to go back and replay areas and like grind and like find more stuff? Like,
yes.
how does all that
so
work?
actually, I'm glad you reminded me. The dungeons are all randomly generated.
Oh, cool.
And so there's different events, traps, puzzles that sort of happen each time you go in. And then on top of that, you can choose which difficulty level you want to do it on, and it'll sort of like increase the number of rooms and difficulty of the dungeon, but you'll get like better loot for doing that. So it's definitely something that you'll want to grind, I guess, in a fun way.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think like it's such a weird word to sort of accompany with video game, because it's like in nature it sounds like not that great.
I love it. I would like camp out a creature in WoW for like you know, a month.
It's one of my favorite things to do in an RPG, and just like you just kind of, it almost feels mindless, but you look up and you're like, oh, I'm like level 46. This is awesome.
Yeah.
So you had your Kickstarter was very successful. Where is the game in development now?
It's actually been submitted. It's pretty much done. Where it comes out October 3rd on PC and console. There's a Switch version to follow. It was the last one we started.
So excited about that.
Yeah.
We're hearing about all these Switch games at Gamescom, but this specifically, like we were just talking about, like grinding through levels and stuff like that. I think that's perfect for the Nintendo Switch.
Yes, it's the only portable version that we are doing currently. And when I was at E3, I had the test kit in my bed in the hotel room, and I was like playing it, and I was like, this is pretty damn cool, you know. Definitely, you can just like take it in the bathroom and get a few more treasure chests or something like that.
Is that what we call them? So on the Nintendo Switch version, did you guys implement anything different, any sort of touchscreen controls or anything like that, or is it pretty much straightforward to be consistent with the other console versions?
It's pretty consistent. Yeah, we haven't done anything fancy with it. So,
obviously, you did. You were heavily involved in Darksiders 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
How does that compare to your involvement in Battle Chasers? Are you even more involved this time around in the overall development?
Well, our team is so much smaller. You know, when we started Vigil, there was like 4 of us initially, and it quickly grew to like, I think the Darksiders 1 team, there was like 60-ish, and then 2 was probably like 80-ish. We had another game in development too at the time, so there was people crossing over. So I don't even know how many people ended up working on those games. But right now, like in-house, we have like 11 people and some contractors. So it's a really small team making this game. So everyone kind of has to do a little bit more. Now,
obviously, Darksiders is very sort of Zelda-inspired. I noticed when you came in, your phone case was Zelda-themed.
Yes.
Does Zelda sort of have any inspiration into this game? Is there any sort of like references or mentions, or it's just anything like sort of thematically similar?
Yeah, I mean, there are puzzles and like pretty simple puzzles that are, or at least simple in the mechanics that are kind of mind-numbingly difficult, you know, as like switch pulling, door opening type puzzles. So of course we're gonna have a lot of those. But I think everything, you know, everything we do is gonna be influenced by like Zelda, Castlevania, or some JRPGs. So
I was actually going to ask you about Castlevania because one of the characters gives me like some very old school Simon Belmont cues. And I love that about him. It's sort of like this really just cool gang of characters, and you said 6 different characters, right?
Yes.
And they're all sort of completely different in their own way.
Yeah, exactly. And they have some pretty funny interactions with each other. There'll be like the little comic balloon style pop-ups, and they'll get in conversations. When you rest at the inn every once in a while, it'll trigger an event based on the heroes that you've discovered so far. They'll kind of be like hanging out and have conversations with each other. So it's pretty fun trying new combinations of hero party heroes. Oh, we're almost at the boss. That's cool.
Oh wow.
So
be able to see the boss.
There we go.
There we go.
That
Perfect.
microphone just called you a moron.
Yeah, you get constantly taunted throughout this entire dungeon. You're kind of at the airship pirates base, the guys that shot you down. And as you're making your way through, the loudspeaker will like say obnoxious stuff.
This guy's awesome.
Yeah. Well, we're going to use this boss fight as our point of exit on Battlechasers Nightwar today.
Cool.
But we're very excited to play the game, and we don't have to wait too long, apparently. It's out October what?
October 3rd.
October 3rd.
Yeah.
Awesome.
PC, PS4, Xbox One?
Correct.
And Switch.
And Switch.
Sometime
soon to follow. Yeah.
We're very excited for it. Joe, thank you so much for coming by the IGN stage here at Gamescom.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if we actually have any more to show you after this or not, but regardless, you should stay tuned. This is IGN Live at Gamescom.